Blog Talk Radio.
If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Righty. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are all over this planet. Welcome to the Counter Racist Code Show, or CRCS, with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. To get in contact with the show, you may call 516-453-9921. Again, that is 516-453-9921. And as usual, you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, @gmail.com. And I will effort to get your Gmails read. More than likely, it will go into the hopper, so to speak. There are many that are before you, but we take them and we read them as they come up. So if we get it on today's show, that's good. If we don't, then we don't get it on today's show. However, whatever you write will be read. Do not send me a novel, though, because that won't be read. All righty, live on the line with me today is Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., live from Washington, D.C. Good morning, Mr. Fuller, and as usual, how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
All righty, okay. Let's start off today's show. All the preliminaries are out of the way. Let's start off with today's show. Okay, here we go. This comes from Junior. He says his name. He says, Mr. Fuller, my name is Junior from South Africa. Mr. Fuller, you once said your book isn't available in South Africa, but you would try that we get it. Please, Mr. Fuller, let me ask you this. The book that is on Amazon, is it his or not? Because as far as I know, it's available on his website, and I really want to buy the textbook. So he's asking, is this book available, the book that is on Amazon? Is it yours? Do you have anything to do with it or what? Because he really desperately wants your book.
Yes, you go to producejustice.com, and I've been told with the people that I work with that it is there. Just go to producejustice.com, and the directives for getting it are supposed to be there.
Okay.
And they should be able to get it. I haven't actually seen it myself, but I've been told repeatedly that just go to producejustice.com, and the instructions for ordering are there, possibly through Amazon or through some other agency. I've heard something about Accent, but I'm not sure if that's correct. Accent. And you can get it in South Africa. Just a second.
Okay.
We'll just go to Produce Justice.
That would be the easiest way to obtain any materials that you are speaking about, is just go to producejustice.com.
Yes. Just go
Okay.
to producejustice.com. Discount what I said before.
Okay. So anybody else that's listening to the program, just go to producejustice.com for all the latest information that you need, how to get in contact with this show, how to listen to the show. I believe there's information about the YouTube channel on the show also. But all of it can be obtained by going to producejustice.com. Okay. let's see here. Let's go to this one here. Okay. This is Gigi, and she asked this. She asked, please, may you ask Mr. Fuller whether he can read a book entitled White Fragility by author Robin DiAngelo? If so, please can he comment on it? Thanks in advance. Mr. Fuller, I've never heard of that book. Have you?
No, never heard of it. What's the title of it?
She says it's White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo.
No, I've never heard of the book. I have so many books that I haven't gotten to that I have in my possession now, so I'm not sure that I could get to it, but I'll try to keep it in mind.
Okay, and then she did ask this, but I think you already answered it, but just for this purpose, she said, please, can you ask the following question to be raised by Mr. Fuller? According to the code written by Mr. Fuller, the term religion refers to a strong belief backed up by action. Therefore, is it correct to say that if the belief in producing justice is backed up by action, is it also a religion?
It would be. That's what religion is, according to logic. I always say follow the logic. What is religion? And it's got to be something that people think about and believe in. I've always heard that part. And then most religions call for people to actually do something. Most religions that I've heard about have some requirements. So sometimes it's just 2 or 3 requirements, and there might be 100 requirements. Depends on how many religions are there. But most religions I've heard about have requirements. So that would take care of the action part. A strong belief backed up by action.
Okay.
So justice, meaning a strong belief, you believe in not mistreating people and helping people who need help the most, that would qualify for religion. A lot of people say that their religion requires people to do justice. So that would encompass that too. It might not be the definition of their religion, justice, but many religions, from what I've heard, require that people practice justice, doing justice. They say justice, treating people correctly is a part of my religion. Trying to help those who need help the most. That's a part of my religion. A lot of people say that. So that would fit the definition of justice.
Okay, now let me ask you this. Does that include the religion of the government of white supremacy racism?
No, because the government of white supremacy, the system of white supremacy, requires that people be mistreated. That's a requirement. That's an absolute requirement. If you're a white supremacist, you believe in mistreating people by the functional definition. Now, many white supremacists will say, "Oh no, no, we don't believe in that. No, we got our own definition, and it's not that. That doesn't include it. Mistreating people, we don't do that. We don't do that. We do not do any harm to anyone. I mean, maliciously and with the intent of doing harm. We try to help people." Okay. Now, some white supremacists may say that, but the track record of the white supremacy, the history of white supremacy, means you dominate. That's the first thing you do. Get in charge of people. You put the muscle on them and make sure that those people do what you say do, what you want done. And in the process of doing that, it requires mistreatment. And those people the natural reaction for most organisms, that if you are in pain And if you're being mistreated, you probably will be in pain of some type. Then you will call for help. But the white supremacist doctrine is you don't get that help. You don't get help that relieves you from pain. What you get is more pain.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Let me say this. Going back to the first question when we opened up the show, I just got a notice from Moon Pie's brother, and it says this, that the book is available in South Africa. So that's good. The book is available in South Africa. So for all the people who are listening in South Africa, the book is available. And there are other countries, I understand, Mr. Fuller, I have been told that the book is also available in. And as they come up, I will mention that. But this has been verified that the book, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, is available in South Africa, so that's a good thing. Okay. Let's see here. I don't have this person's name up here. Maybe they'll type it in. I do have a question here. If they don't type it in the next few seconds. Let me see here. Caller, I don't have your name up on here, but if they can, let's see if we can get you in. Okay, caller, are you there? Okay, not there yet. Okay, because the mic is not hot. Okay, Mr. Fuller, I'm going to go to a Gmail, and then maybe we can get the caller that's on here. Okay, this comes from Black Speak Braun. He says this on the 9th of this month. He says, Mr. Bobby, can you ask Mr. Fuller why blacks should vote under the system of racism, white supremacy? It is important for blacks to vote under the system of white supremacy, racism? Thank you.
I say yes, you should vote, but not with the expectation that that will take care of everything that needs to be taken care of. But since the vote is said by many to be important, and some people have found benefits that come from voting, because it all comes down to what are you voting for? In order to get what? In order to accomplish what? So if there's a track record of people getting more from voting than they had by not voting, then codification based on logic, and everything in codification should be based on logic. If you gain something of constructive value, then by all means vote. It comes down to, do you gain or do you lose? You're either going to gain or lose when you engage in any activity. So is it a losing proposition or is it a gaining proposition? So if there's a possibility you might gain, then by all means vote. There's a saying, a little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing.
Even in this prison system?
Yes, you do the best you can in a prison system. If you can get 2 pieces of bread rather than 1 piece of bread, get the 2 pieces of bread, even though you may still be hungry with 2 pieces of bread. 2 pieces of bread are better than 1 piece, two pieces of the same size and quality. So you opt for the 2 pieces. Why not? In a prison system. And the system of white supremacy is a world prison system for people of color. That's what it's designed to be, a prison system, and that's what it is.
Okay. All righty. The number, if you'd like to get in contact with the show, is 516-453-9921, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. This is from a person in Zimbabwe. says this: since the country of Zimbabwe is ruled by blacks, is this a place in the known universe where blacks can control and dominate whites to the same extent that racist white supremacists control and dominate non-white people elsewhere in the known universe? Thank you.
Is Zimbabwe a place where blacks can dominate whites? Is that the question?
Yeah, wait a minute. Since the country of Zimbabwe is ruled by blacks, is this a place in the known universe where blacks can control and dominate whites to the same extent that racist white supremacists control and dominate non-white people elsewhere in the known universe?
No. The system of white supremacy is worldwide, everywhere, 24/7, in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Otherwise, you can't call it white supremacy. It either dominates non-white people or it doesn't. There's no place on what we call the planet Earth, according to all the evidence, that the white supremacists do not dominate the affairs of people who they classify as non-white, either directly or indirectly. So any place that has a name at all or doesn't have a name, but you have people there of color, including people who have never even seen a white person, a person classified as white, they still come under, directly or indirectly, through the 9 areas that I just mentioned, the most powerful people on the planet are people who engage in the most powerful political and religious system ever existing in recorded history is, in capital letters, the system of white supremacy. It's the only government on the planet. Even when you don't see any white people at all, if you're a person of color, wherever you are, if it's on this planet, it's dominated, directly or indirectly, the affairs there, climate control, all of it, is dominated by the activities of people who classify themselves as white, and this is very important to distinguish between the two, not just because a person is white, but a person who is white can elect to be a white supremacist. And by so doing, once they join into the activities of the system of white supremacy, they are joining the most powerful club ever existing in recorded history among the people of the planet Earth. Once a white person makes that decision that I'm going to be a member of that club, you're not automatically a member. You are born into the system that's already in place, which that makes you a member, but you have to accept the rules of that club. Or you have another option to go against the rules of the club, the system of white supremacy, in which case you will be set up on by the people who are members. And any white person who has ever tried to go up against the system of white supremacy and made it real has found themselves in big trouble. The system of white supremacy does not tolerate serious opposition. Now, they tolerate a lot of talk. That goes with it. In fact, they fashion the talk. They help you make up the talk. They let you talk about it all you want to. They let Neely Fuller talk about white supremacy as much as he wants to. Just don't get serious enough for it to take effect.
Does that
if
include
they look
you?
around and start seeing that it's taking effect, then that's when whoever is making it take effect against the system of racism, that's the person or persons who wind up being hurt. You'll feel the pain because it's coming. But as long as you're not effective, as long as everything stays the same, the white supremacists do not mind anyone, white or non-white, standing on a podium, pointing up and, poking holes in the air with your fingers about what should be done, what ought to be done, what has been done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, what they don't like, what they're not going to put up with. Just go right ahead, sing on, clap hands, do anything you want to, march. Because that's not serious. That's not a real danger to the system of white supremacy.
That would include. Would that include you?
Sure.
What you have to say?
That's why I'm still on this program. If anything that I said becomes effective, see, the white supremacists know when something is effective because it starts hurting the business. It's like any gangster operation because that's what it is. They don't care what you say about gangsters. Gangsters don't care what you say about them. They like the publicity. I mean, that's almost like a form of praise when you are bragging on their knighthood, you might say. It's like praising the ancient knights. That's how they look at it. Hey, that's good publicity. Yes, I mean, they're talking about me. I mean, that does nothing but just make me feel better. They're talking about how terrible I am. Oh, I love it. I mean, give me more of it. Just don't do anything about it. That's effective. Talk about it, but your talk had better not become effective or you're going to hear from them swiftly. And they know how to take care of business when it comes to getting rid of people. They can do it in 15 minutes.
Or less.
Or less.
Yes. Okay. All righty. Let's do this one here. Again, the phone number is 516-453-9921, or you can Gmail me at the numeral number 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com, to ask your question for Mr. Fuller. Okay, this is coming from Canada. From Mr. Palmer. He has several, but I will read this one. He says, question for Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, on page 149 in the Counter-Racist Codified Word Guide, according to counter-racist logic, the meaning of hate means an aggressive submission to fear. One, in quotations now, hates, in quotations, what one fears. My question is, does it make more sense to say that I hate the racist because I am really fearful of them when I believe I hate them because they mistreat and dominate me and I can't stop them?
And the person is asking, is it correct to say that you hate them?
Yeah, he says, does it make more sense to say that I hate the racist because I am really fearful of them when I believe I hate them because they mistreat and dominate me and I can't stop them?
You can say anything that's true. That's a part of the counter-racist code. Anything that's true, you can say it. So if a person sees themselves as hating someone, you tell the person you hate that someone that you hate, if you're telling the truth when you say that, because everything starts with the truth. Now, it doesn't say that you should, according to the code. You shouldn't hate anybody. The code book says that. You should be trying to get away from hate of any kind because, hate breeds hate. And, everybody just winds up hating everybody, including themselves, eventually, because that's the way hate works. That's just the nature of hate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, correcting a situation that needs to be corrected doesn't necessarily call for hate. So the codified position is, as far as victims of racism are concerned, hate shouldn't even be on the radar anywhere. But corrective activity should be. You see a situation that needs correcting, you correct it. Doesn't have anything to do with how you feel about it, except you feel about it if you're talking about feelings, because hate is a feeling. You're just talking about correcting a correct situation that needs correcting. You're driving a car and the car starts drifting across the line that puts you in a line of traffic coming the other way. You correct that by steering into the lane that is safer and more efficient to be in. That's all. Regardless of how anybody feels about anything. That's the correct action. You just want to do the correct thing. Everything else falls in place. Just do the correct thing. Something needs correcting, correct it. Once you know how to correct it. That's it.
All right. He continues with this. He says, Mr. Fuller, when the racist, white supremacists, mistreat and dominate me based on my color in any of the areas of people activity, how can I use my emotions to lead me to constructive logic when my code work is not completely solving my problems?
It means you're going to have a code in order to solve a problem. All problems are solved through some type of code. Code just means doing what works. That's all a code is. Not doing what doesn't work. You got a choice. Either you're doing what works or you're doing something that doesn't work. A code means you do what works all the time, under every circumstance. That's the first thing you check out. Does this work? Does this work? This thing that I'm doing, is it working? You don't keep doing something that doesn't work. That's not logical. A snail knows that. A whale knows that. An ant knows that. That's the law of compensation. You try to do something, what you're doing is not working, that means you try something else. That's the law of compensation. You compensate for the thing that you're doing that's not working by doing the thing that does work in the most efficient manner, in the correct manner. That's it. That's what the entire textbook for victims of racism is about, doing what works. And you might say, well, I don't know, I'm trying this and I'm trying that and it's not working. That's because you haven't found out how to do what works. So you just keep trying. Like the people who first tried to put wings on a bicycle and thought that just by pumping, and pushing on the pedals, maybe, they could get the thing to fly. Well, that didn't turn out too well most of the time. It wasn't very efficient, but they kept at it until they figured out something called aerodynamics and all that. And the next thing you know, people are flying at great heights.
All right, tell you what we're going to do, Mr. Fuller. We're going to use a baseball term here, and we're going to slide in the first break, which is commonly called a break. We will do that, and then we will resurrect again the program and go on to the next half hour. Okay, for my peoples, you are now listening to the Counter Racist Code show, also called CRCS, with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. And if you would like to get in contact with the show, you can do so by calling 516-453-9921. Let us hear from you what you have to say. That's very important. But if you choose not to do that, you can also do this. You can contact me by going the Gmail route, 7MrBobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. That is what Mr. Henry has done, and I will read your question. Now, make sure that you don't write me a novel, because if you do, I will not read it. That's why one of the reasons why we ask you to call in. And any other information that you desire, you can also go to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com for all questions, inquiries, right there. You can do that. You can do that right there. producejustice.com. Okay. Alrighty. Again, the Counter Racist Code Show is CRCS with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Okay, here we have that music going in the background. Now, let's get ready for a second slice of the action. Since we have 2 hours, we've already completed 30 minutes, so now we're going to go into the next segment here. Let me put I call them my eyes, my peepers on here, and let's do this. Wait a minute here, just a second. Okay, sorry for that pause. Okay. All righty, Mr. Fuller, let's do this. This comes from Mr. Henry from the Gmail. He says this, Mr. Fuller, on page 150 of the code book, the expanded edition, the last sentence reads, quote, any person who willfully helps to establish, maintain, expand, and or refine a condition of white supremacy, or who is, if able, does not at all times strive to speak and or against the condition, is a criminal and or an agent of criminal. Mr. Fuller, does that statement mean that if black people are not speaking or willing to speak and act against the system of racism, white supremacy, are acting as agents for the system of white supremacy? Could you please explain and elaborate?
Oh, okay. That's the end of the question?
Yeah. Explain. Could you explain or elaborate? Page 150 of the code book, the revised expanded edition. He said the last sentence reads that. Mm-hmm.
And it says, I'm looking at 150. And,
I am also. Mm-hmm.
And where is that? Where does that start? Where that question starts?
I'm looking at it too, and I am looking at the last.
The last paragraph.
Yeah, I'm looking at that, but I don't see that.
I don't see what that question is, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you
but
what.
You can go back to the question itself.
Okay. Let's do that. Okay. He says any person who willfully helps to establish, maintain, and expand and or refine a condition of white supremacy, or who is, if able, does not at all times strive to speak and or against the condition, is a criminal and or an agent of criminals. Does that statement mean that if black people are not speaking or willing to speak and act against the system of racism, white supremacy, are acting as agents for the system of white supremacy? Can you expand or can you explain or elaborate on that?
Sure. Just what it says. If you're in a prison system, you're supporting the system. That's the simple way of putting it, directly. If you are in a prison system, you're in a prison system as a prisoner or as a prison master. You are supporting the system. Everything supports what is in place already. The most powerful element in any circumstance. All of the things that go into whatever that system is, all of the elements. It takes all of the elements. It takes prisoners that make a prison. If you have a so-called prison and you go there and look for prisoners, what you see is a bunch of buildings maybe, or open space or whatever it is, but if there are no prisoners in the prison, it's not a prison. It's just a bunch of buildings. But it's not a prison. You can't call it a prison. A prison for what? You say a prison for people, but there are no people there. So how can it be a prison for people when there are no people there? So everybody supports whatever is in place. And the system of white supremacy is in place. So that makes, yes, if it's a criminal operation, which is what the system of white supremacy is, the prison masters are criminals, and the prisoners are supporting a criminal operation by being prisoners. They are not benefiting from it in a way that's intended, but they are a part of the support system for that prison system. So one person can't. The reason that's in there in the code book, you say, well, what's the value in saying something like that? The value is it's the truth. That's number one. And the other essential value is it keeps prisoners from saying you are supporting the system of white supremacy, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Which a lot of victims of white supremacy are prone to do. I'm not supporting the system of racism, but you are. If you're black and you're on the planet Earth, you are supporting the system of white supremacy, period. Now, whether you like it or not, whether that's your intention or not, that's another story.
Yes, sir.
But you are indeed supporting the system, the prison system, which is what the system of white supremacy is, just by being a prisoner in that system. You're not a prison master, but you are supporting the system by being a prisoner. And the entire system should be done away with because it's an illegitimate system.
Okay.
And replaced with what? A system of justice.
System of justice. Okay. Mr. Fuller, could you, since we're there, go to page 151. Oh, no wonder I couldn't find it. I was in the Word Guide. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's in the Word Guide. All right.
No, I was reading. I was looking at that from the Word Guide. Wait a minute before
I see.
Yeah, let me see here. Okay. Sorry about that, Mr. Henry. I was looking in the wrong book here. Yeah, it's similar. Yeah. And he did specify that too, and I misread that. In the revised expanded edition of the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept, Mr. Fuller, at the very bottom of page 150, as he indicated, could you read that line there where it says, if a system
produces injustice, then the rules that maintain the system are incorrect, even though these same rules, if used to maintain a just system, would be correct rules. White supremacy is an incorrect system that promotes injustice. Any person who willfully helps to establish, maintain, expand, and or refine a condition of white supremacy or who, if able, does not at all times strive to speak and or act against the condition is a criminal and or an agent of criminals. All comforts that come to any person as a direct or indirect result of the practice of white supremacy are comforts unjustly received. So that means the victims of white supremacy are complicit in their victimization.
Wow.
So all of us are guilty of that. But as the code also says in another place, many people are being harmed. There's 4 things on another page. I don't have the page number now. Many people in the system of white supremacy are being harmed because the system of white supremacy is all about doing harm to people of color. All right? Many people have been harmed. Many people are to blame, meaning the people who are doing the harm and the people who are being victimized by the harm and not doing everything they can to get rid of the harm. Okay? So they're to blame. I'm to blame. Oh, yes, we don't have anything to celebrate in the month of February or any other time. I've said that repeatedly. So we are to blame for not taking maximum seriousness to getting rid of the system of racism and replacing it with justice. So many people are being harmed. The people who are most to blame are the white supremacists. Why? Because they're the smartest and most powerful in keeping the system going. They're the ones who are the driving force behind it. And they are the most to blame.
Okay.
Out of everybody. I mean, you know, all the victims and whatnot, they're to blame. I'm to blame for this condition. You know, I'm not doing enough. I'm not spending all of my time like an ant in a glass jar. An ant in a glass jar spends all of its waking time trying to get out of that glass jar. That's exactly the way that black people all over the planet should be, rather than boogalooing up and down the street. Thinking that they're, you know, it's every situation that we can possibly think of is hallelujah time. When we should be trying to replace the system of racism with the system of justice full time. Every breather, every breath that we take, that's what we should be about. Otherwise, we should be actually looked upon with the contempt that we are being looked upon with it. And we think everything is grinning time.
Yes.
Banjo time.
Yeah, banjo time. All right. Thank you, Mr. Henry. I do stand corrected, and I did get the I was looking in the wrong book, Mr. Henry, but I got, and you said it right here, expanded edition in parentheses, and I still missed it. But thank God we did find it and have Mr. Fuller address it completely as you had written it. So thank you again, Josh.
Bit of confusion there.
Yeah, that was my fault because I was looking in the counter racist codified word guide, looking on the bottom of page 150. But we got it corrected. That's the main thing because we don't want confusion. But since I was there before we talk about your book, Mr. Fuller, I was noticing on page 151 of the Contemporary Counter-Racist Word Guide, and I was looking at what you had written under the notes, which I get questioned or asked about all.
Hello. Hello.
Okay, let's see here. We got to get Mr. Fuller back here, but what we're trying to
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, engineers. Okay, on page 151 of the Counter Races Codified Word Guide, under notes, could you read that paragraph right there? Very important because I get asked about this quite
Under
often.
notes, 151, yes. During the existence of white supremacy, white people and black people are often sexually attracted to each other, and always for the incorrect reasons. As long as white supremacy is the dominant motivating force among the people of the known universe, sexual intercourse and or sexual play between white people and non-white people only serves to make the system of white supremacy stronger. Sexual intercourse and or sexual play between white persons and non-white persons during the existence of white supremacy is dominated and controlled by the white supremacists, and as such helps to make non-white people into sexual and political simpletons and misfits, extremely weak-minded and silly persons in regards to their understanding of white supremacy and its effects. Now, that's a flat statement that's either true or false.
Yeah. Okay. Now you've observed this. You thought about this. You have evidence to support that statement. Is that correct?
Yes, I say it's self-evident. That's
yes.
the evidence I always go by. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's not self-evident. I say it is, if you believe in the truth.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
See,
we're talking about truth here.
If the white supremacists dominate all non-white people in all areas of activity, which means that when a black person, for example, has sexual intercourse with a white person in the system of white supremacy, the white person is the dominant factor in that so-called relationship. It's not equal. Sexual intercourse should be between equals, not between one person dominating another. That's not real intercourse. That's criminal activity. That's one taking advantage of another. It's supposed to be equals. In the system of white supremacy, black people are not equal to white people in the system of white supremacy. So therefore, when a white person has sexual intercourse with a black person in the system of white supremacy, that black person is being taken advantage of. It's child molestation. That's what it is, because the black person is in the position in all 9 areas of activity of a child in the system of white supremacy. That's the way it works.
The third time you specified that, in the system of white supremacy.
In the system of white supremacy. That's just the way it has to work. It can't work any other way. It's impossible. The black person is being dominated in that so-called exchange, that intercourse.
Mm-hmm.
That's sexual intercourse or sexual play, or in the modern popularity, what's going on now, transgenderism or anything else. That black person is being taken advantage of, period, regardless of how he or she claim that they feel about the so-called quote-unquote relationship.
Okay.
That is a relationship between a prison master and a prisoner. That's what that is.
Okay, so...
No exceptions to that.
No exceptions. Now,
none.
If black people do not understand what you just stated, could it be that we need to go back to the beginning statement that you make on every program, which is if you do not understand, could you repeat that?
If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. So what you have is a planet full of confused black people when it comes to racism. We are confused. And any people who are confused will always be dominated by people who are not confused. And the white supremacists are the least confused people on this planet, period, in all areas of activity. They're not confused about economics, even though they pretend that they are sometimes when they don't want to pay you. All right?
Yeah.
They're not confused about the education system. They know who's being educated and who's not. They pretend that a lot of non-white people are so-called educated. They'll hand them a piece of paper and say, you are now an educated black person. And they'll wink at each other because they'll know that you don't know anything. But they'll give you a certificate saying that you know everything. They control what you think and how you value things and what you aspire to do and what you think is important and what you think, what holidays you should celebrate. They control all of that and what those things are supposed to mean, what this means and what that means. They control the education system.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of black people do not think that they control entertainment. They do. The overall, they'll let black people have their little input about writing songs or poems or whatever and whatnot, but they will shape the frame, the overall frame in which all that so-called entertainment takes place. Mardi Gras and everything else. And so we say that, black people are dominated. We dominate the entertainment field. We don't have much else, but we dominate that entertainment field. We make all the calls about the entertainment. No, we don't. We don't make any calls about anything, period. That would go against the system of white supremacy, and the system of white supremacy does not allow any of that, period.
Labor, law, religion, sex, and war and counter-war.
Definitely. Religion, don't even mention it.
Right.
The white supremacists dominate that from top to bottom, wall to wall. Even how you think about it. Unless you're thinking about countering the system of white supremacy. And that's the only thing that they watch.
Okay.
They don't care what else you say about what you believe in. You can believe in anything you want to, but you're going to do what they say, and they prove that. And if you're black, you know it. You don't have to be told that.
Okay, let me shift gears here as we come up on the first hour. We need to talk about your publications. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, and a caller called in about it from South Africa early on, and you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. Don't confuse that with any other source. Producejustice.com, and what will come up on the screen, I haven't looked at it lately myself, but what I've been told is all of the information you need for ordering the basic textbook. And if you want the word guide, they're actually the same book. The word guide is just a continuation of the 2016 edition, even though the word guide came out before the 2016 edition. And then there's the 1984 edition there, what I call the original, the actual original in 1969, but that was in manuscript form. But the 1984 edition of the textbook is there, too, for those who prefer that. Some people say they do. and some people say they want all three. That's just a matter of choice. What is recommended is the 2016 edition, revised expanded edition, and if you want to, then the Word Guide, 2010 edition. And the books are directed to victims of white supremacy. That's it. If you don't consider yourself a victim of white supremacy, then the book is not directed directly to you. You can buy it, and read it if you consider yourself not to be a victim of white supremacy. But it's supposed to tell you, as a victim of white supremacy, what to do about your victimization. Suggestions, just from my viewpoint, the author. It is strictly my viewpoints, and you can consider them for your own use or reject them. They're just suggestions. I can't say it's a cure for the entire system of white supremacy, even though that is my intention. How to eradicate the system of white supremacy. It's never been done by anybody. Everybody says they have an opinion about it, and I have an opinion. But nobody's ever done it. It's something that's never been done, ever. Once it took root, it's the only government worth mentioning as a government on the entire planet Earth. The only government worth mentioning as a government on this planet, I don't know about other planets, called Earth. According to what? Neely Fuller? Well, yes, as far as my writing is concerned, but I say according to all the evidence. I don't know of any government more powerful than, in capital letters, called the system of white supremacy. That's the name of the government, even though it's not listed anywhere as a government, I don't think, except in the textbook for victims of white supremacy. Because it's listed in the textbook for victims of white supremacy as being the only real government. Everything else is just some names and some pages and some books and papers and on somebody's wall and on maybe in somebody's airport and whatnot. But that's not a government of any kind. If it's supposed to be a so-called black government of any kind, there's no such thing as that. You don't have a black government anywhere on the planet Earth in the system of white supremacy. It's all the government of the system of white supremacy, according to the evidence. And the book is written for the victims of that government, the non-white people of this planet. How to replace that system with the system of justice on a daily basis by what you say and do. That's what the book is about. Go to producejustice.com.
Okay, now the caller had called in or Gmailed me earlier about the book in South Africa, and I do have confirmation, and I'm reading it. It says the book is available in South Africa. So that's a yes. Is the book available in the United Kingdom? Is it available in Canada? And are there other countries that the book is available beside the so-called the United States?
According to what I've been told, in Canada and in other parts of what is called the United Kingdom, the UK, it is available as of now. That's what I've been told. But you get all that information by going to producejustice.com. Anything associated with the textbook for victims of white supremacy can be found at producejustice.com.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that information that you just said, Mr. Fuller, just came up on my screen. Says yes, go to producejustice.com. We are shipping books to the United Kingdom and Canada as you and I are speaking. So books are being done. Books are being shipped. I'm able now to get messages currently or up to date, even as you and I, Mr. Fuller, are on the air. But as we stated earlier, and as you just stated, And as my people who help put this thing together are saying that anybody that has any question concerning that or any other question, go to producejustice.com. Right. And all that will be answered. Okay, I haven't heard the music, but we're going to do this. In the next 60 minutes, in particular, coming up, we're going to talk about the N-word from one of our Gmailers. Very important, so we want you to stay tuned for that. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I had permission to call it the CRCS, Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Now, if you would like to call into the show, some have, but for some reason I probably pushed a button to have them drop. I'm going to put it on me. But you can call in by calling this number, and I'll repeat it 2 times. 516-453-9921. I'll say it again. 516-453-9921. And we will effort to get your voice over the air so Mr. Fuller can address your questions. In the meantime and in between time, you can contact me or the show by Gmail, 7mrbobby@gmail.com. And if it fits into what we're doing, or if I can't get it up in there, whichever comes up first, I will attempt to read your Gmails as you have written it, as long as you don't write me a novel. Please don't do that, because I cannot do that. We only have 2 hours here. But anyway, again, you are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, right here on ProduceJustice.com. Okay. All right. Let's get ready for the second part of the show. Going very well this morning. It's 10:02. Let's do this here. Let me see, Mr. Fuller. Let's see if I can get that Gmail back up. Okay. All righty. Let that music power down. Okay, Mr. Fuller. This comes from Alpha the First, and I'm going to read it. It says, "Greetings, Mr. Fuller. Recently, Mr. Fuller, the NBA star named Kobe Bryant and his daughter and 6 or 7 other people died in a helicopter crash. After the crash, a suspected white supremacist female on a major news network used the N-word to describe the team that Mr. Bryant played on. On page 261 in the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept Word Guide, the code explains the use of the N-word and the caution / warning that victims of racism, white supremacy should have when using this word or responding to this word used by suspected racist man and suspected racist woman. Here's my question, Mr. Fuller. Can you explain the phrase, quote, the pitiful person, end of quote, on page 261 when speaking of the N-word or the N-word being used by suspected racist man and suspected racist woman? It appears that the N-word still has a large, harmful effect on black people, and it is causing a lot of, these are capital letters, confusion on how to respond to a suspected white supremacist female's usage of the N-word directly or indirectly or, in capital letters, accidentally. Thank you very much.
Yes. So the question is, how do you respond to it?
Yes.
Well, whomever's using the word, first thing you want to know is, or are they talking to you? We can get that straight. Just ask the question, and the answer is either yes or no. And if the answer is no, they're talking about someone else, then you say, well, why are you calling that person that word? And what does that mean? See, words have meaning. So that's the first thing you want to make clear. What is the meaning of the word? And wait for the answer. Don't act like you know the answer and you start talking before the person gives their view of what the answer to the question that you just asked is. Don't participate in the answer until the person asks you, how do you see the word and what it's supposed to mean or not mean? Because words are just tools. Every word is a tool, and a tool is supposed to accomplish something. That's what tools are for. Every word is a tool in any language. It's a tool. And tools are supposed to accomplish something. The N word is no exception. So you just want to know, what is this tool in this particular case supposed to accomplish? You're using the tool, which is a word. So what type of tool is this? And what is this tool supposed to do? How are people supposed to react to the use of this tool? In order to accomplish what? You're trying to accomplish something. When you use any word, when you use any tool, a pair of pliers, a saw, a screwdriver, a hammer, a fork, a knife, a spoon. These are tools for accomplishing something. So the N word, as we call it, is supposed to accomplish something. So the first thing you want to know is what the definition of it is. Is it a pair of pliers? Is it a saw? Is it a spoon? Now, what does a spoon do? What do you use a spoon for? To accomplish what? How does a spoon differ from a fork? Does a spoon do the same thing as a fork or a knife? Do you use a spoon for the same thing that you would use a knife for or a saw? And the N word is no exception. What you want to do, first of all, is get an understanding of the word that is being used, which is a tool, and what it's supposed to do. And that's the essence of everything that's on this page, 261, if I want to make a summation of everything that's on this page. You just want clarity more than anything. Clarity in conversation, and conversation does consist of words. You just want to understand what's being said and why it's being said and what it's supposed to accomplish. That's what you want to know in any conversation. And a conversation may include the so-called N word. Now, it's a lot of writing there on that page 261. Mm-hmm. And it means, since I wrote it, everything that it says about that, including some added words like down just past the second part of the stage, it's the N word dash lover. You might say Negro lover without using the actual N word, all right, as they say. Okay? So you have that there. But, and it means what it says. And it says, do not use this term. Now, the N word itself, it says, use this word with caution. Why use it with caution? Because it means different things to different people. So you use it with caution, meaning what? You definitely, if you're going to use the term, you explain what you mean, and you explain what you intend for this word, this tool, this spoon, this fork is supposed to do. this knife, if you want to put it in that context. And you can use a knife to slice bread, or you can use a knife to harm someone. Okay? Same tool, but used for a specific purpose. So you want to find out what the purpose for the use of this term is. That's it.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
That's all. It doesn't go any further than that. What is the purpose? If the purpose is for someone to do harm to you, you want to know what harm, how. Now, the way I react to the use of the term, according to my own writings and my own suggestion, Neely Fuller Jr., is I say, are you calling me this term? I just want to know who you're talking to. And if the person says, yes, that's what you are, and I say, all right, so what are you supposed to do for me, with me, against me, or about me? That's it. That's my next question. Now that you're saying that's what I am, you're giving me this title, I want to know what you are going to do as a result of me having this title that you gave me, regardless of what title you give me. I just want to know what you're going to do. You can call me your Royal Highness, or you can call me the N-word. You can call me anything you want to call me. That's you.
Okay.
But I want to know what you're going to do to me, for me, against me, as an announcement of having told me what I am.
All right.
And that's the recommendation, that's the codified response.
Okay.
That I recommend.
Okay.
You just want to know what the person is going to do.
Okay. Now, for clarity's sake, because I did see the clip that this announcer or whatever she was, I did see it, I did hear it, and she addressed it this way. She called, and maybe this will help all of us in how to respond to this. She didn't call you or me the N-word. She happened to refer to the Los Angeles Lakers as the Los Angeles N-word, and then she quickly covered or covered it up, so to speak. I'm using the wrong word there. That's what she said, the Los Angeles N-word, and then she tried to straighten that out. Now, since it wasn't directed directly at you or me, what, and I'm taking a big liberty here thinking what the caller is asking, how do we, since she wasn't directly talking or speaking to us, how do we respond to a statement that this woman made? She said what she said. There was nothing added to it. She actually, and I saw the clip, it wasn't photoshopped, it wasn't put in. She said what she said, called them the Los Angeles N-word, and then later on that day or whatever, she did make a apology for that, and I do believe, and I'm not sure, maybe somebody can verify this, I think she was removed or fired from the job. What I'm asking, and maybe what the caller or the Gmail is asking, how do we respond as black people in the prison system of racism, white supremacy? How do we, or what is the logical, codified response to someone making a statement like that?
It's a word, like I just got through explaining. And I hope that every black person on the planet start looking at that, the use of that word in that manner. It's a tool. So the first thing you want to know when somebody shows you a tool that is controversial about its use, if a person approaches you with a knife, what you want to know is, what does the knife mean within the context that they're approaching you. Or they're giving you the knife because they're going to hand you a loaf of bread right behind it and say, I'm giving you this knife because I'm fixing to give you a loaf of bread, or I'm fixing to give you a wedding cake or whatever, and you might need the knife to cut the cake. It's a tool. So the first thing you want to know is, lady, when you say this about the Los Angeles Lakers, what, and that's a word that you use to describe them, what is your intention for doing this? You know, why did you call them that? Okay? Words don't mean anything until you give them some kind of meaning. You got to get the meaning of it. And you say, well, I know what she means. Everybody knows what she means. No. You ask the lady. That's the procedure. That's the compensatory scientific procedure. What do you mean when you say it? Okay? Within the context that you're using it, just like a knife or a fork or a spoon or a toothpick. That's a tool. The word is a tool. You're trying to accomplish something. Lady, why are you saying what you're saying? That's all you're asking. In order to accomplish what? Words are supposed to accomplish something. I don't care what kind of word it is. It's just a word. It's supposed to accomplish something. Every word is a tool. It was made up by somebody to be used. So what are you using that particular word for in this particular setting? Mm-hmm. You said this about a basketball team, that they should be called by this term. In order to accomplish what? Ma'am, that's one of the questions you ask. What do you mean by the use of that word? What is the word, literally? Because according to the code, I fit that description, Neely Fuller Jr. See, I have no problem with it, according to the definition that I gave it, because the word doesn't have a definition. That N word that everybody gets so upset about and highly controversial, they say it's the most poisonous word in the English language when you start talking about race. That's the most poisonous. You can't get more poisonous than that particular word. So what gives that word so much power? What gives it power, according to what I've written, it doesn't have a definition. You say, oh, yes, it does have a definition. Tell me what it is. What is the definition? You look in a dictionary. I've looked in a lot of dictionaries at that word. And the definition says it's a derogatory term for a person of African descent, Negro lineage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But here's the key. That's still not a definition. They say it's derogatory, but they don't tell you why it's derogatory. That's the key. That's what drives people crazy. As long as that word is being used, it's called a vile word, a terrible word, a word that tears people apart. Mm-hmm. What kind of word is so powerful that it does that? A word that doesn't have a definition. That's what. A few years ago, someone said something about someone being a macaca. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. It was in the news at a meeting. And a white man called a dark-skinned person a macaca. And a lot of people in the room looked at each other and say, what's a macaca? All right? That's the first thing you do. You want to know the definition. Somebody's calling you something. You got to know the definition of the words they're calling you before you react, other than reacting to find out what the definition is. So someone looked it up right quick. A macaca is a species of monkey. Now we're getting somewhere. All right? And I want to say this to the entire listening audience. Once you give a word a definition, the word, first of all, is put into a context. The mind automatically puts it in a context. And the word also loses power. Any word is powerful that doesn't have a definition. You can make up any kind of word right now. In particular, if you do it in the context of name calling. I can make up a term right now and go around in some settings and start calling certain people, picking out certain people, and start calling them a name that no one has ever heard of before because I just made it up. And I can drive people crazy if people pick up on it and start using it. And every time you see this person, everybody will say to this person, yeah, you're this, you're that, using that term that I just made up. The term doesn't have a definition because I'm not telling you what the definition is because it doesn't have one. But I keep using that term, I can actually drive you crazy. You'll get angry, you'll turn flips, you'll foam at the mouth over a period of time. Why? Because it doesn't have a definition. Any word that has a definition has limited power. Any word. A word that you make up right now. This is very important what I'm saying because people have been going crazy about that word, and I say, if you want to call Neely full of that term, call me that term anytime and see if I flinch. See if I start screaming and yelling and running down the hall. I'll be like stone. I don't care how you use the word. You can, like some people know how to put that bite on it by rounding out that R. All right. I mean, a lot of people are familiar with that. Someone shouting from a station wagon or whatnot when we're walking down the street, and they use that N word and put that R on it where they, that ER, and they draw a line under it. I mean, they put an exclamation point behind it. And that makes a lot of black people go ballistic. I mean, because it's got that bite to it. Okay?
Yes,
doesn't bother me at all. And the reason why is I know where power comes from.
All righty. I don't know why. When you just said that, that reminded me of something you said on another program that you and I have shared. I don't know why it came up, but remember that song you told me about a long time ago? I told you that I love you. Now get out.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why that reminded me of that, but it just did. And I happen to go.
Yeah, words. You can do anything with a word. You can say, "Well, love me. Tell me that you love me." Okay, all right. You insist that I tell you, like this is February. Cupid. All right, in his era. Okay, and it's all about love. Black people talk about love more than anybody on the planet, and we don't love nothing. All right, we don't even know what it is.
Okay.
The white supremacists have completely alienated us from love. Well, we don't know the definition of it. Okay, not to say anything about acting it out.
Yes. Okay. Did we have a caller on the line here?
Yes.
If we did, go ahead, caller.
How you doing, Mr. Fuller? Thank you for everything you're doing for everyone. But I have a couple questions I have been curious about. Question number one is this concept of white supremacy. Is it a technological supremacy that's based around the people who created, which were white? And if we are able to erode the system of white supremacy, meaning and produce justice, would that still give us the access because of the technological advantages that the ones who have been oppressing us have? And even if we erode from the standpoint of a social standpoint, a technological standpoint would still be there. That's question one. Question number two.
Wait a minute.
Well, I want to answer question one first.
Okay.
Now, you say if we get justice, will everything else fall in place? Is that the gist of what you're saying?
Yeah, let me just make to make a basic analogy, so it'll be very easy. If let's say it's a circus and there's a monkey in a circus, and the people are beating the monkey to teach it how to ride a tricycle, or the monkey wants to ride a tricycle, but they're not letting it ride a tricycle. So but they're abusing it. The monkey he sees the kids riding a tricycle, he wants to ride a tricycle too. So eventually they say, okay, we're gonna let you be free. We're not gonna keep you from riding a tricycle, but you have to make your own tricycle. Now, the monkey, I would assume, won't be able to make his own tricycle. Is that the situation we're in?
Now, I don't think I understand the question.
Okay.
You gave a long illustration there. Can you give me the gist of the question of what you're asking? Sometimes I don't comprehend the question, and really, in this case, I don't.
Okay, I'm sorry. Are we able to compete on a technological level needed to produce our own justice?
No, because we haven't done it. Now, are we able to do it? Well, the assumption should be that it's possible for justice to be produced. And so it comes down to, is it possible for black people to participate in the production of justice, if I understand your question? And the answer is yes.
But what I'm asking
we have to be committed to it. That has to be the priority. Because right now, what is black people's priority?
Nothing.
Everybody's got a priority. Everybody's got something they really are interested in doing. What is it that black people are more interested in doing than anything else? And I concluded, and I have it in the textbook, black people are more interested in showing off to other black people than they are in anything else that you can name. And I make that as a flat statement based on evidence.
Okay.
You give us just a little bit of, you might say, time to ourselves to think and to act the way we want to think and act. And we immediately start, according to the evidence, trying to figure out a way to show off something about ourselves, with getting ourselves involved in it, to other black people. That's our priority. Trying to impress other black people is our priority, which is why we're the most retarded people on the planet. We're the people that, nobody wants to be around to learn anything from us, because that's all we're interested in is showing off. Any kind of way that we can show off. Turn flips, beat on a banjo, beat on a drum, run around in circles, yell, scream, jump up and down, kill somebody, all the gang banging and whatnot we do. That's a form of showing off. That's all we're doing. You don't get paid for that. It's all about showing off. I can do it. Look at me. Everybody stop what you're doing and look at me. And here we come strutting around doing this and doing that. And it doesn't add up to anything when you draw a line under it and say, now, what is this really worth that's of constructive value? What is all of that effort that they're putting into? I mean, putting in all kinds, they say that we are lazy people. The white supremacists have been saying that. Black people are lazy. And a person look at us in a lot of situations and you can conclude that we are a lazy people. But not really, not in truth. We're not a lazy people. We're lazy about doing some things, all right? Like you can expect a slave to be lazy because he's not getting any return. But if you want to see black people come alive, and lose sleep, give us a chance to just show off to other black people, and we come alive. We are not lazy. We move we got all kinds of movements. We are moving. We move like lightning. turn flips. I mean, jump all up in the air and do things you've never seen people do before. That's not laziness. It takes a lot of effort to do that. But that's what we do. So in answer to your question, we need to be just as enthusiastic about the production of justice, the elimination of racism, and the production of justice as we are about looking forward to how we are going to show off the other black people next chance we get.
Okay.
What's your second
I had
question,
a question too. Okay, my second question was this. So after the white supremacists, they captured the Africans and enslaved them, brought them into slave ships, brought them to wherever lands they were going to take them to. They got them there. Why do you think that black people reproduce babies for them? Why were we, knowing what we came through, knowing what's really on the ship to get there, knowing how they're treating you, why would you reproduce and basically create a farm system for them? I mean, because when I look at it, even the higher level animals in the zoos, when they're captured, they shut down their reproductive structures. They don't do it. They just shut down and kind of they don't. That's why we see it on the news sometime when they produce one. It's a big deal for some kind of like cheetah or panda produces a cub in captivity. Why did we just almost breed like rabbits when we were conscious of our situation? That's my question. And did that enforce the white supremacist mindset that he's doing the right thing? That's my question.
If I understand your question, why do black people reproduce when we are reproducing slaves? Is that the question?
Yes.
Because we have a duty to whatever created black people to reproduce. We are made to reproduce. So we should reproduce because that is what the creator of black people intended for us to do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be reproducing anyway. So the intention is not to be overruled, by the white supremacists when it comes to us reproducing. So even though we are reproducing other prisoners of war in the prison camp, we go ahead and reproduce. Why? You just might reproduce one person or two persons or three that come up with a formula for correcting situations that need correcting. It comes down to a simple question that can be added. Why are we here? Why is anybody here? This planet could have been occupied like the moon is occupied, or like Mars is occupied, from what people know, or like Jupiter, a huge planet, is occupied. So far, they haven't seen any people moving around on Jupiter. They haven't seen much of anything there. It's a desert, okay? Mm-hmm. But you have Earth that has people and creatures. And they were put here by what? A creator. Now, that doesn't get into any specific religion, but the evidence shows that people are here. Something put people here on this planet. First of all, the planet was put here, a very unique planet. And some very unique creatures called people were put on this planet. Now, these creatures are supposed to be doing something while they are here, and reproducing is one of them. So the white supremacists, they want to control the population like they control everything that involves non-white people. So they say, I'll help you to get rid of some of you to suit what I'm doing. Well, our response to that, according to the code, is no. We're not trying to suit what you are doing, because what you are doing is incorrect. Practicing racism, that's incorrect. So we are going to reproduce in your prison. And we might come up with someone out of all of our ignorant people that we have, and all of us are very ignorant, every last one of us, or we wouldn't be prisoners. We might come up with a few people who figure out how to deal with you in the way that you should be dealt with, so that we can get along on this small planet in a manner that we should have gotten along with in the first place. That's what we should tell the white supremacists and tell each other. No, we're going to reproduce. Well, you can't take care of yourselves and all like that. Well, you're supposed to take care of us because we're in your prison. That's the deal.
Okay.
No matter how many of us show up.
All right. Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your call. We're going to pause right here for about 30 seconds. You're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show, CRCS, with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and yours truly as co-host, Mr. Bobby. Now, if you'd like to get in contact with the show, you can do so by calling 516-453-9921, as the last caller just did. Or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com, and we will effort to get you on or your email read. If it's not read today, it will be read at some point at some other show. But that's 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. And if you have any other questions or comments or want to order some materials, you could also do this by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And while I'm on that, some of you have written me wondering if you can donate to this program. Well, let me tell you right now, on this program, on producejustice.com, you don't have to do that. No donations. You don't have to do it. Don't do it. If you're going to do anything, buy the materials at producejustice.com and go from there. But we will not, that's N-O-T, we will not ask or solicit donations from you. So let me make that clear. Several people have written in about that. Okay, last time, no donations on producejustice.com. Okay, 516-453-9921 is the number that you can call in to the show. 7, Mr. Bobby @gmail.com is the number that you can get in contact with the show and have Mr. Fuller answer your questions as I can read them. Okay, let's go here. Now, I'm hoping to the Gmails, I'm hoping that I am pronouncing this name right. Let's see. Malisala. I hope I pronounced it right instead of butchered it up. But anyway, this is from the Gmail, Mr. Fuller, and it says this. Mr. Fuller, would you agree that those who can replace the global system of white supremacy with a global system of justice won't do so, and those who want to replace the global system of white supremacy with a global system of justice can't do so?
Yes, if I understand the question correctly, because that's in the textbook itself. The people who have the power to replace the system are the white supremacists themselves. They can have a system of justice and take credit for it. They're the smartest people on the planet. A lot of people have problems with that, but the white supremacists here in 2020, the year 2020, are the smartest people on the planet. They know more about how to get things done than anybody. I don't know of any people that know how to get things done better than the white supremacists, those white people who practice white supremacy when it comes to getting things done. But the problem with the system of white supremacy is that in the process of getting things done, they destroy people. They handle things very well. They handle people awful. That's what's the horror of the system of white supremacy. It's a slave system. It's worse than slavery. You know, if there's anything worse than that. It's all about deliberately mistreating people. You know, you might have a slave because you just think you absolutely have to have one. But you don't have to have racism to have a decent planet. The white supremacists are saying, yeah, well, that might be true, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to mistreat people based on color. Something that, when you just think about it, it's absolutely insane. And they have made everybody else insane here on this planet. But they are the smartest people on the planet in the process of becoming that. So they can actually, overnight, produce a system of justice. They know how. They know more about how to do justice than anybody. They know. Why? Because in order to be an expert on practicing non-justice, it means you have to know what justice is. And they know what justice is. They know how to do it. They could do it in 15 minutes, have an entire planet run on a just system. But they like war. They brag about liking war. They strut around and have military parades all over the place. Have more military-type parades, people with swords and guns, than anybody, and teach everybody else that. Go in little villages where people are trying to learn how to farm, and they put that away. I mean, you can get around to farming anytime. Here, take this gun, take this rifle, boy, and go over there and kill the people over there in the village across the hill. Go over there and show off to them how you can kill them and make them do your bidding. And I'll stand back here and watch the show. That's what the white supremacists do. They love that type of thing. And they make us love it. And so the whole world is run by people who are super smart doing things that are super stupid. And that's the white supremacists. Super smart people teaching people, because they know what stupidity is too. And they lead black people into doing everything that you can possibly name that is absolutely stupid. And in the area of sex here in 2020 right now, they got us all hyped up on doing stupid stuff. Stuff that's been proven for thousands of years to be super stupid. And because everybody, for the most part, has sex drive, they say, let me show you black people how to conduct yourselves sexually better than has ever been done before. And we're going to have scatter sexualization. And it's all over the television now and all over ads, and they got all kind of fancy names for it. Complete disruption of the sexuality of the non-white people of this planet. Why? Because it serves their purposes. That's why. They haven't really sat down and told you what this is all about and who really started engineering it and putting it on this fast track to oblivion, which is what it is. It's sexual oblivion. It's what they have the dark-skinned people just all excited about now. This is the priority. They say, forget about the schools, forget about the health care, forget about this, forget about that, forget about making sense of anything, but I'll give you plenty of genderization. We're going to degenderize you. In order to do what? In order to accomplish what? Well, embrace it. Now, I'll tell you all about what the purpose is later. Yeah, the purpose is to make you weak in going up against white supremacy, because that's when they start hyping it up, when it looks like black people are really getting to be effective. We start showing some signs of being effective against racism, and then they say, push all of that aside about talking about race or anything else, talking about agriculture, talking about better housing. Just put all that aside and join the degenderization movement. Make that your priority. Make that the height of your civilization that you have in mind for the future. That'll be the priority.
That'll be the priority. Okay.
Degenderize, right. Scatter sexuality. I mean, can't tell a male from a female. I mean, that's a bunch of nonsense to have males and females. That's foolishness. Get rid of that. I got something better for you. And they're pushing it off and paying big money for it. And black people are gobbling it up because we like money, all right? And they glamorize it like you make anything, you glamorize and put a lot of glitter on anything among primitive people, which is what we are, and they'll go for it without thinking, wait a minute, who's behind this and for what ultimate purpose?
Yes, sir. Okay. Mr. Fuller, it is at this particular time that we want you to talk about your book.
You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. I keep emphasizing that because for some strange reason people keep missing it. Anything associated with this book and anything associated with what I'm saying, go to producejustice.com. And we're talking about donations earlier and whatnot. If you really want to donate information about producejustice.com. Pass that on to other people and have them, and have them come back and tell you what they think. And you pass on to us what you think about what Neely Fuller is saying and whether or not we need a code, because that's what this whole program is about. And that's what the book is about. The book is just an object to transfer information about the need for a code, a counter-racist code. I call it the missing link. It's the one thing that we need that we just act like we don't need, because I guess most of us never thought that we needed one. That all we need is a bunch of slogans, and to every now and then, like Black History Month, everybody assemble in the middle of the street, every street, and lock arms with somebody, and just march down the street, and then go back to doing what we always do. That's not working. That's not problem solving. I'm not speaking against it. I'm just saying we need to add something other than that. And the addition, I say, is a code of behavior, things to say and things to do each and every day, how to react to the use of the N-word there in the office or the warehouse or wherever you happen to be. We should have a code for how to react other than the way we do react, because we are not reacting in a constructive manner. We just get angry and talk about we don't like being called that without having a conversation where we can have a code about what do you do when someone does that. Do you fire them off the job? Now you got a person that's out of a job and they got to go and find another job, and the job that they're going to find is going to, they're going to get rid of your cousin and give that white person a job now because he didn't have one. So all you're doing is just transferring the problem. We don't need to keep transferring the problem from one place to another. We need to get rid of the problem. And the way you do that is through a code. You're not going to be able to get rid of the problem without black people having a counter-racist code and white people getting on board with that counter-racist code. It's not going to work. And that's what these books are about, to establish a code. Because we don't have one. And that's the one missing thing in all of this talk about race all of these years. And we're not going to solve this problem until we get a code. Counter-racist code, meaning things that you do, things that you don't do. Things that you say, things that you don't say. That's all it is. That's all any code is. Electrical code, plumbing code. It means that whatever you do and say, it always works. That's when something is a code. You know it's code because it always works. If it doesn't work, it shouldn't be called code. And in other things, it doesn't.
Yes, sir.
But go to producejustice.com and try to get this word spread. We need a code. And I'm trying to write one. And everybody else should be trying to have a code, meaning do what works. Stop doing things that don't work and filling up these jails with things that don't work, things that we do to get us there. How to respond to a law enforcement officer. Don't fuss. Don't fight. Don't flee. That's a code. Why? Because if you fuss, fight, or flee, it's not going to work, and the record shows that it doesn't work. It just makes your situation worse than it was before. Why do something that's going to make your situation worse than it was before?
Yes, sir.
That's the definition of the N-word. A person that just deliberately does something worse than it was before.
Okay. But going to producejustice.com.
Go to producejustice.com.
Okay. We can do that. Okay. You're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show, CRCS, with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. And to get in contact with the show, you may dial 516-453-9921, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. Okay, let's do this. Mr. Fuller, on page 262 of the Counter Racist Codified Word Guide, 262. I'd like for you to start reading on this wise here, or from this paragraph where it says non-African, non-American, non-Asian, and then under notes. Very important to do this. Do you have that yet, Mr. Fuller?
Page 262 of the Word Guide. I
Yes.
do have it.
Okay. Could you start with non-African / non-American / non-Asian, and then what you have written under notes?
Okay. Non-African, non-American, non-Asian. These are terms. What is a non-African, a non-American, and a non-Asian? So what I have written here on page 262 of the Word Guide says, use these terms to apply to speech and action by persons that does not result in the establishment of the system of justice. I'm going to repeat that. Use these terms to apply to speech and action by persons that does not result in the establishment of the system of justice in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, counterwar. Then I have some notes there. Having said that, about how to use the terms non-African, non-American, non-Asian, I have some notes here. And it says, during the existence of white supremacy and according to compensatory counter-racist logic, Africans, Americans, and Asians are all one and the same concept of people behavior that has not yet been put into practice. Now, to explain exactly what that means, or reiterate it in other words, I'm saying, Neely Fuller is saying in the Word Guide, Africans don't exist. Americans don't exist. And Asians don't exist. And why do I say that? Well, I'll continue. Africans, Americans, and Asians are people who practice justice. That's why Neely Fuller says Africans, Americans, and Asians don't exist. Why? Why is it that Africans don't exist? Americans don't exist. And Asians don't exist anywhere in the known universe. No such thing as an African person or an Asian person or an American person. Why? Because these are people. Africans are people, Americans are people, and Asians are people. People who do what? People who practice justice. Now, no one practices justice in the system of white supremacy. That's impossible. The white supremacists do not practice justice, and what is justice? Justice is guaranteeing that no person is mistreated, and also guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help in all 9 areas of activity, the most constructive help. Now, in the system of white supremacy, you don't have justice, so therefore you don't have Africans, you don't have Americans, and you don't have Asians. Because in order to be an African, you have to practice justice. I don't care what you look like. You're not an African if you don't practice justice. And you're not an American if you don't practice justice. And you're not an Asian if you don't practice justice. And you can't practice justice in the system of white supremacy. That is absolutely impossible. The people who believe in white supremacy are supreme. And they are the only people on the planet who are in position to practice justice. But white supremacy itself is an unjust system. So anybody who's a part of an unjust system is not practicing justice. It's not possible to have justice and non-justice on the same planet at the same time. According to whom? Neely Fuller? No. According to the truth. According to logic. That's not possible. You either have justice or you don't. There's no such thing as a little bit of justice. Either you're guaranteeing that no one is mistreated or you're not. Either you're guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most is getting it or you're not. And that can't happen in the system of white supremacy. So therefore, people are non-Americans, people are non-Africans, and people are non-Asians on this place called the planet Earth. There's not a single Asian anywhere on this planet. It's not a single African anywhere on this planet called Earth. And there's not a single American anywhere on this planet called Earth.
I hate to do this, Mr. Fuller, but we've got to leave it there. The music is in the background. Hopefully we can pick this up next week because that was very profound, but we have to go here. So thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, callers. Thank you, all the technicians. This has been the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. and your co-host, Mr. Bobby. And we hope to see and hear from you next week on the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for inviting me.